the other leaders of the world.
Well, let's stop right there. We got to go to calls. David, I promise I'll have you back. And then would you like to debate Rob Jacobson next time you come back?
Anytime, because I can show, then maybe that's the problem of why you're not talking more about the Jewish issue, because some of these Jews, they pretend to be on our side, but they won't recognize Jewish racism. They won't recognize the fact that every major Jewish...
That's not fair, what you're saying.
Well, Rob is my boss, David.
I'm asking you, Mr. Duke, to broaden your mind, because what I'm saying is I recognize everything you're saying, and I'm saying let's go a step beyond that and look at the true group that's behind this, and that's an intermingling of who you're saying, as well as Catholic and Protestant and all world leaders who intermingle.
Well, exactly. It's like the Masonic secret societies have roots in Israel, Babylon, Greece, Rome, and of course there's a Jewish element to it because I mean your name's David. That's a Jewish name. It's part of our culture.
If the Masonics are behind it, then according to your reasoning,
I'm not saying the Masonics specifically. I'm just saying there are groups out there where these people intermingle, and
it's all
like
merged.
Bohemian Grove, for example. These men intermingle every single summer, and they discuss policy as well as creative ideas and scientific development every summer. And there are some Jews that go there, but guess what?
And they've had presidents and people say that more gets done there than anywhere else. That's all we're saying, is that of course there's powerful Jewish lobbies and defense lobbies, and we're not debating that. It's just that all I ever hear out of people is Jew, and then they make stuff about me and claim that Jews are running what I do, and it's just crazy.
I think Jews run what you do. I'd like to take some calls, but if you're just going to run over me, I don't need to be here. I'd love to take some calls from the callers.
Well, David, we're not running over. You've talked as much as we have. Rob got to talk maybe 3 minutes total. You got to talk an hour.
To respond to what the Jewish individual said here. He said, well, but he's intermingling and everything in Israel. Why is it, if it's truly not a matter of the supremacy of the Jews and the international globalists, then why is it that, there's the question, an open question, why is it that Israel is the only country on earth right now that allows segregated settlements, that Israel's the only country that can ban marriage between a Jew and a non-Jew by the basis of...
Yeah, I think that's wrong, and that's why you've gotten calls of apartheid and stuff, and a lot of it is Israel has...
the Palestinians and get away with...
Hey, David Duke, you've been given... Let's just be clear today here, for the record. You've talked more than I've talked. You've talked more than everybody else. You keep implying you're being cut off. You keep implying you're being run over, and it's just not an accurate... truthful statement. You have been given a ton of time here, and so let's just stop making those false claims.
Well, the audience will judge anyway, but I'll just take some calls.
I know. All your buddies will bitch and whine because normally everybody falls down and worships you. But the point is that you did. The fact is, you got to talk more than I did, and so just stop claiming we're running over you because Rob came in here. And talk to you.
Maybe that's true. Well, we can, after we have the tape, we can time it and see. And whatever the situation, all I know is that a lot of times when we have a question, like when he was asking me a question, I really wasn't allowed to answer it. He kept saying about Jews intermingle and all this other stuff. But every major Jewish organization is promoting immigration into America, but they support Israel, which has the strictest immigration policies of the world. How does Israel get away with it if the media is truly for open borders?
All right, let's go to calls. Paul in No. Up next is Dana, Montana. Dana, Montana, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, this is a great interview. I want to say I'm going to change the channel a little bit, and I want to know David Duke's opinion on what's happening in Russia. I know that on his website, it's all Zionist, and I understand, I believe the Zionists to be the globalist and y'all to have the same enemy, but you can't see eye to eye. But I want to know why he never talks about this group that is this racist group that's helping the Ukraine in Kiev jerk people out of buildings in South Ossetia or in these Odessa and beating them with clubs. But we're not getting his take on that. If he was with the nationalist movement here, the white nationalist movement here, then why is he not an intermediary, at least in having some type of interviews, something going on with the white nationalists there?
That's another thing. We got George Soros financing known white supremacists in Ukraine to attack the Russian-held areas there in eastern Ukraine, there in the Crimea. Undoubted fascist right-wing, Heiling Hitler. Why, again, would George Soros be funding that?
Well, let me answer the question very clearly. If you listen to my radio show, and by the way, those listening to this show, I'm on every day, Monday through Friday, at 10 o'clock Central Time, 11 o'clock Eastern Time. And I've talked no less than about 3 or 4 dozen times about the Ukraine and about Russia and all what's going on here. And I think that Russia is a target, again, going right back to it, because they dare to stand up for the Syrians and the Christians in Syria and the anti-ISIS forces in Syria. The reason we've supported ISIS is because Israel saw Syria as an enemy, and the Christians of Syria as well, who support Assad and support the government, because Syria has supported the Palestinians. Same thing's true of the Lebanese.
But speak to Soros and the left funding right-wingers. Answer that question.
Explain why they're anti-Russian. Now, I have also talked about, I've had many
because
shows.
Soros, this isn't about being Jewish for him. He's a dirtbag who likes to go around doing criminal stuff.
Totally about being Jewish for Mr. Soros. And Mr. Soros is an absolute Jewish supremacist.
Why is he funding white supremacists then?
Because no, what he's doing. They'll support any side if they think it can get their individual tactics. The reason they hate Russia is because Russia is upsetting their apple cart in the Middle East. Russia supported the Syrians. Israel doesn't like Syria, even though it's not jihadist. It's not terrorist. There's no terrorists from the Syrian government to attack America. Syria is the only country fighting them, and Russia has supported them. So Russia has stymied the Zionist position of the United Nations. That's why they hate Russia. Now,
I hear you, and they're using white supremacists as usual. How many? What percentage of white supremacists and white nationalists do you think are really FBI agents or informants like Hal Turner?
And that's a problem, because European nationalists can be used by those people if they don't understand the end game here. I talked about Barbara Nuland, the Jewish Undersecretary of State that said F Europe, that wanted this war.
Is Hillary Jewish?
What? Hillary's not Jewish, but let me tell you, her and Clinton have taken. The Marie newspaper in Israel had a big article, one of the leading Israeli dailies.
Here's my problem. All I know is the Jews I know are fighting GMO. They're fighting tyranny. They're fighting open borders. They're fighting banning the word mom and dad. I mean, take Matt Drudge. He's Jewish, and he fights the whole New World Order agenda. I mean, most of the Jews I know are fighting the New World Order. And then all I hear about is how Jews are evil all day. It just becomes a giant distraction.
I believe the media is on the side of bringing out Monsanto. Of course not. The Jewish
Drudge is linked to our articles fighting Monsanto.
There are Jews fighting Monsanto, but the overwhelming Jewish power structure, you don't find any organization like the leading Jewish organizations condemning Monsanto.
Right, we got to go to more calls. And nobody's censoring you. We got to go to calls. Paul in New Jersey, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, good afternoon, gentlemen. Yeah, you have a good discussion there, but people don't realize we were communists before the communists were in 1913. And we set up the communists right in New York City and sent them on a boat, the Trotskyites, across and right through World War I. They said, don't touch this railroad here. We're going to take these communists, set up the communist revolution.
Yep.
That's how that started. And the big banksters, what is the biggest ongoing robbery in the history of time? Can you answer that question?
Well, I think the Federal Reserve is.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, they're controlled. Yeah, they get their dollar bills for like 2 cents, and they loan them back to our government for face value plus interest.
You're right.
And all the money goes for the income tax. They collect for the unlawful income tax.
Well, there's no doubt we're under bondage, and I just want to cut past all the names and all the race stuff that the social engineers want us to obsess over and just say, no more private Federal Reserve, no more end of national sovereignty, get us out of the UN, cut taxes, and then I can sell everybody, whether they're Jewish or German or Chinese, on that, and we can all live happily ever after. I mean, that's why some of the corrupt elements in Israel and others have been caught bombing their own synagogues in Iraq to make folks move to Israel. That's not all the Jews doing that. It's corrupt groups. Our elites do the same things. It's like Frank Underwood throwing a brick through his own window. I mean, it's just human activity is all I'm saying. Thank you, Paul. Leslie in South Carolina, you're on the air with David Duke. Go ahead.
Mr. Duke, I am enjoying your conversation immensely. I have to ask you a question. Are you a Christian?
Yes, I am.
So you've taken Christ into your heart as your Savior?
Yes, I have, ma'am.
Okay, so have I.
And his first name is David, the King of the Jews, the super Jew.
Well, I can't be responsible for my first name. I didn't name myself. I'm a Christian family and so forth. But I can tell you this, that the truth is that the greatest enemy of Christianity has, from the very beginning, and you just read the New Testament and you'll see it, has been the organized Jewish community. They were the ones, in fact, to crucify Jesus Christ.
Well, the Pharisees were always going after any other new group of ideas that came out. I mean, that's true. And I mean, Christ was challenging that.
Because he wasn't preaching Jewish supremacy. That's what the real problem they had with Jesus Christ. They supported Barabbas, a Jewish revolutionary and a Jewish supremacist, rather than Jesus. So that's how.
And then see how that turned out 70 years later with Titus. Okay, Leslie, thank you. Mark in Oregon, you're on the air with David Duke. We're hurrying now.
Hello, Alex and David. Please let me preface this short 1-minute statement that I have.
Okay, go
here.
ahead.
By saying that actually I was born a Torah Jew as opposed to a satanic Talmudic Jew, a non-Jew actually, and I was raised as such. Now, as usual, when I hear disagreements among those in the alternative patriot Christian movement and media, I notice that the areas of disagreement are much smaller than the areas of commonality, which are potentially massive in power when proactively united. Now, Tex Mars, gentlemen, he has researched genetic studies of the population of the country of Israel, which concluded that only 4% of the population of the country of Israel have Jewish blood. This, of course, brings up this massive elephant in this particular room of discussion. In the near future, I think you should both elucidate upon the topic of the Khazarian aspect of, as Jesus Christ called them, you Jews who are not Jews, the synagogue of Satan. You are of your father the devil. These Zionist Khazarians are whom David speaks of, and they of whom the Rothschilds are a part do at least on
okay, well, I have seen, I got to jump, Mark, but I appreciate your call. I mean, undoubtedly, the Sephardic Jews clearly are the people that are the oldest bloodline there. But I think David would argue that, no, all these people are Jewish. David, briefly, what's your take on that? And then I want to get Jacobson's take.
So I want to say, I got to preface this by saying I just love Tex Mars. I think he's a great and honest and wonderful Christian man. I do have a disagreement with him on that particular study. There have been huge genetic studies that Christian Jews in Russia are 6 times closer genetically to Jews who are Sephardic. These are Ashkenazi Jews, Sephardic Jews in, say, Spain, than they are from, say, fellow Russians. And the truth is the Talmud, you talked about the satanic Talmud and the Jewish establishment. Just don't forget that the Talmud was finally codified in the 6th century AD. Now, that was hundreds of years before the alleged Khazaric conversion. So I used to believe in the Khazar theory, but I don't believe in it. And I think most of those who are promoting the theory, and a lot of our people have done so not knowing the truth, have promoted it. And it's actually beneficial to them because it's trying to say we're not the real Jews. But Judaism and the Jews have really been an enemy of Jesus Christ. They've been an enemy of the rest of mankind for a long time. The Talmud.
We got to end it right there. I'm sorry, the other callers. I want to give Rob Jacobson, the evil person, I'm being sarcastic, a return comment to you, and you can say something back to him, David. Go ahead, Jacobson.
All right. When it comes to that history of the Jewish people, I don't know that much. But what I am aware of is, of course, like any other group, there's going to be a corruption of people who are, rise to the top, an elite of this group who do dirty, corrupt things for their own benefit, just like any other group. But what I did notice about Mr. Duke's response is he did find a convenient way, of course, to dismiss whatever history there is and, go along with his entire dialogue again, without even, it's like, oh, I don't believe it. It's not this. And I think that kind of rhetoric and that kind of discussion should be also taken into account. And
all right, this will happen. Duke will come back, Jacobson, and you'll be able for 30 minutes, actually debate him on the points. And then maybe Duke can recommend who we can have on to debate with him. But David Duke, I think it was an interesting interview today. 2.5 hours you spent with us. Lots of plugs for you. But you'll get to be the victim and claim I censored you.
Tomorrow at 10 o'clock Central Time.
All right, yeah. So there you go. David Duke, very, very wolf-like. Nice little friendly wolfie. My, what big eyes he has. We're out of time, folks. God bless you all.